So when I was up there, I thought, I'm 5'3". Like, I don't think I've seen a woman of 5'3" place in top 10. And if I have, please tell me. But I hadn't seen it. And for me to do that when I was told she's not good enough, she tries too hard, she's this, she's not Australian enough, I walked to that top 10, that spot on the floor, and I was like, here I am. So just, like, I was proud of how far I'd gotten, and I thought, that in itself is enough. That in itself is history, and that in itself is going to change lives. Oh, yeah, Lenka. And that's the thing, when I made top 21, one of my best friends in the pageant, Lenka from Bolivia, she was like, wah! And she would always call me Aussie. She just called me Aussie, and she'd be like, my little Aussie, I love you, like her voice. And I just saw that video where she's like cheering for me, and I thought, bloody hell, I love my friends. That sounded so Aussie. So, okay, that was what I thought when I made it to the top 21, top 10, and not the top 5. Closed door interview. People asked about that. So, closed door interview. I loved it. And the funny thing was, in alphabetical order, I had myself, then I had Bahamas, and then Barbados. They were my friends, so we were always together. And I remember right before the closed door interview, they took 5 of us at a time. We had to line up outside, and they had the team member from Miss Universe filming us. And we were meant to be nervous, but we were just joking and being fools before we went in. We were like vibing and just saying the silliest stuff. And I remember they were like, guys, you're meant to be nervous. And we're like, we feel good. Like, we're not nervous. And then I remember going in, and it was Bahamas and I went in together. They took us in twos. We stood in the middle of the room, and there were 4 judges on each side of the room. So for the first 4 minutes, one person would go to one side, one person would go to the other. So Bahamas and I walked in, we're besties, right? She's 6 foot tall, I'm 5'3", and we stood in the middle of the room. We looked at each other literally before we walked to the desk. We're like, let's do this. And then we went to the judges, and I was so calm and so nervous because, again, like, if there's anything I should be worried about, it ain't communication. I know who I am. I know what I was there to do. So if they asked me, I was going to speak from the heart. And I did. They asked me, you look nervous and then you became Sasha Fierce during prelims. Yes, I did. But anyway, the interview. I was not nervous, and I think I loved... the first panel that I spoke to was Brooke Lee, I think it was Tatiana, Deepika, and Christine, potentially? I think so. And then the first question was Brooke Lee, and I loved it because as I walked up to the judges, they were just smiling, they were really friendly, and Brooke was so awesome. They pretty much just studied your profiles and asked you questions based on that. And the first question she asked was, hey, first they were like, Aussie, Aussie, Aussie. So I ran up to the table going, oi, oi, oi. I was like, yeah, boy. And then we walked up to the desk, and she was like, okay, Maria, I'm just going to get right into it. So they didn't waste any time. And I remember the first question was, you talk a lot about being a woman of color in Australia. What is the dynamic? Why is that something you need to speak about? Because I'm a woman of color myself. So I think, Brooke opened with that, and I thought, yes, let's do it. And I explained why I talk about being a woman of color in Australia, because it's still something to talk about. It's still something that determines our opportunities and how represented we are and how far we can get. So Brooke opened with that. I remember getting asked a question around that first interview. I don't really remember too much, but we were talking about things of that nature. And then the bell rang, and we had to go back to the middle. So Bahamas and I, again, standing in the middle. And I told them that we were besties as well. They were like, sisterhood, who's your friend? I'm like, that's my bestie behind me. She's interviewing on the other side. They're like, how are they going to pair the tallest person and the shortest? I'm like, maybe Miss Universe has a sense of humor. So then we swapped, and I went to the other side, and it was, Zuleika, Arden, a couple of the other women, and they asked me questions around I remember it was Kelty actually. She was awesome because every time I saw her, she was smiling and I could tell she was like rooting for me. She commented on my outfit and said, "You can't tell me you're not a fashionista when you walk in houndstooth and that bright blue." And I was like, Kelty, if I may say so myself, I consider myself a fashionista. But then I told them, I'm like, you know, fashion's a way to creatively self-express. It's how you show up and tell the world who you are.